We will start with Al Fusco this evening. Al, go ahead.
We are preparing applications for work at the water plant in Andorra Park and Satterley Grove to replace the water lines. Towards that end, we're applying for a $2 million grant and a $1.4 million low-interest loan through the New York State Environmental Facility Corporation. Towards that end, the board had previously passed a resolution indicating that they would like to be lead agency on that. We have not gotten any responses from any of the involved agencies at this point, and therefore it's appropriate for the board to pass a resolution at this point declaring themselves lead agency. With your indulgence, I'll read the resolution. All right. Whereas the Village of Highland Falls is considering making application to the New York State Environmental Facility Corporation drinking water program for Andorra Park and Satterley Grove water distribution and water plant component replacements. And whereas the village has cause to have prepared a full environmental assessment form under the State Environmental Quality Review Act, and whereas the village has submitted it to all interested parties requesting lead agency status, whereas after 30-day comment period, all interested parties indicate acceptance of the Village of Highland Falls as lead agency. Now therefore be it resolved that the village board of the Village of Highland Falls determined, based on the information and analysis in the long-form EAF and supporting documentation, hereby declares itself lead agency.
All those, do I have a motion?
You do. I'll make the motion.
Second.
Second. Roll call.
Roll call, Trustee Mellon.
Aye.
Trustee Elward.
Aye.
Trustee Murphy.
Aye.
Mayor Flynn.
Aye.
Thank you. Now, with that one out of the way, we have a second resolution, and this resolution is a negative declaration indicating that now, as you, as lead agency, have looked at all the environmental concerns and documents, and based on that, you feel that this project is not going to have any adverse effects on the environment, which most of it is just replacement. We're replacing old 4-inch pipes with new 8-inch pipes in the same location, immediately adjacent, and components at the water plant. So I'll read this one with your indulgence. This notice is pursuant to 6 NYCRR Part 617 of the implementing regulations pertaining to Article 8 of the Environmental Conservation Law, State Environmental Quality Review Act, SEQR. The Village of Highland Falls Village Board, as lead agency, has determined that the proposed action described below will not have a significant effect on the environment, and a draft environmental impact statement will not be prepared. Action: water plant, Andorra Park, Satterley Grove. Seeker status: Type 1. Negative declaration: yes. Description of action: water distribution line replacement and water plant component replacement, New York State EFC DWSRF grant application. Facts and reasons supporting this determination. Based on careful review of the application, the plans and revisions thereof submitted by the applicant, long-form environmental assessment form with supporting information and public comment, the Village Board has identified no areas of environmental concern in connection with the proposed project. Resolution: be it resolved that based on the Village Board's review and consideration, full environmental assessment form, supplementary technical information, public comments, and consideration of criteria for determining significance set forth in 6 NYCRR 617.7c, the project as designed and set forward herein will not result in any significant impact to the environment.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Roll call trustee Mellon.
Aye.
Trustee Alward.
Aye.
Trustee Murphy.
Aye.
Mayor Flynn.
Aye.
That concludes what I need worked on at this point. You know, we need authorization for the mayor to sign the documents, and we can move forward with this. We will have them in by March 1st. They're actually going to be in probably by Thursday. The clerk has been fantastic about making copies for me. So at this point, we just need authorization for you to sign the
And
document.
a motion to authorize me to sign the documents?
I make the motion to authorize you to sign.
A second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Did you say the current pipe is 4-inch?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Going
4
to
inch,
8-inch.
and it's going to be 4 inch. It's severely tuberculated
Eight.
or corroded.
Yeah.
In fact, I would guesstimate, and Gary's seen it before, I'm sure, that it's, you know, it could be down as much as 1 inch at this point. From 4 inches, it just corrodes, and there could be only a
And it's
1
going to
inch
be ductile.
opening. The new pipe is going to be ductile iron pipe, which is a combination of steel and cast iron.
Now, this 8-inch main, is this lateral coming down Main Street? Is the 8-inch main?
Yes,
Now, where does it, through the old road, it's 6-inch, I believe, isn't it? Going
it
toward Fort Montgomery and Cranston?
it is 6, but we're running all 8 inch through the,
Just for the volume, I guess, yeah, but I mean, at what point do we make the transition? Is it?
it'll be
6
right
inch?
at the main.
Okay, is it like down by Cragston where we'll be going, how far down are we gonna go with this 8-inch line?
The 8 inch will just be, you know, right in between the two developments.
Okay, all right. That'll give us an increased volume for Fort Montgomery too, then through that.
That's
why I'm
correct.
going with the 8-inch,
That's correct.
okay.
And, you know, we haven't done final plans at this point because we want to get the grant and they're grant eligible, and if you do them ahead of time, they're not grant eligible. So,
Right.
Too bad.
Damn those EFC people.
On, when we're running this 8-inch, how far do we have to go to pick up where it stops? You know what I mean, where we're tying the 8-inch into? Are we going all the way to the plant, or are we just coming to a main coming down Mountain Avenue?
you're just coming to a main on Mountain Avenue. right?
Okay. All right.
Good?
Good.
Excellent. At this time, I want a motion to exec.
Motion, or second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Good.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Again, I want to throw out 20,000 options. You're going to be like, stop talking and just, I'll take 2 of them. But that's one of the thoughts. I was talking to a solar guy today. And that's an option if you want to look at it, again, with the high cost of electricity. Is there areas down at the plant, your pump stations, and the other areas that you can operate where we can put solar to try and defray some of the cost?
I'd be willing to look into that, because to be honest, I don't know too much about that. I would have to talk with that, and I would say that there's area, but I don't know, you know.
Okay.
I'm not up on that stuff.
On the pump stations, yeah, you don't have any area at the actual pump stations.
Just a roof.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And it's not gonna give you much. You got about a 4x8 panel, you got 300 watts.
Yeah, see, I don't know too much, that
Yeah,
kind of,
yeah,
so.
it's not a lot of, to gain, but if you
First
have
of all, I don't want
a
to hear
place-
from the electric guy.
No, but I'm thinking in terms of at the plant, there may be, if you had the room to get something down there where you can hang some banks and solar panels, I don't know. Probably be one of the only spots that you could kind of look into that on, but most of your roofs have the aerator on the roof where it goes through those baffles, the less
Well, the
process.
roof, there's 3 large flat roofs down there.
Okay.
Only because if we can get a program that pays for the majority of it,
Right.
then we're not paying for it, and then we can start accumulating.
There might be a good spot down there.
Kickback, yeah,
Super,
that's-
good point, Pat. What else we talked? We talked about that electric seems like a pretty high down at the Web Lane station, but again, if you got, how big is the heater down there? What, do you got a piece of baseboard or a unit heater down there?
It's an electric heater.
A big unit heater on the ceiling? Okay, and that runs
And we
continuously?
look, when we got that, like, basically on the lowest setting, that when you know it's a small area down there, when you open the door, it's like, holy, I mean, we can't turn it off, but
How many, do you know what the wattage is on it?
1,500, I believe,
Is that all?
yeah. But it's, I mean, the room is,
How big?
Different energy crisis.
Well, that's what I'm thinking of, why
I
do
would
we
say,
gas?
12 by 8 room.
If the generator's
If
gas, why is
that,
the
it's
heater
not
gas?
that big of a room.
Yeah, that's not that big. That's
That's
not the right size either for that.
No, it's hot in there, and we got it on the lowest setting.
Yeah.
John, is there a reason why we have an electric heater and not a gas heater? Because isn't electric a lot more expensive?
Well, there used to be a furnace in there, and that all had to be replaced. When we did the, generator, we thought about replacing the gas furnace, and we're like, yeah, that one was shot that was in there.
Right.
We actually had a plug-in milk house heater because that thing, and we're like, you know what, it'd probably be cheaper just to get rid of that furnace, take the gas out of the building and just have it for the generator, but maybe that was a mistake, I don't know.
But, now I'm sorry,
That's right.
the electric heater runs 24/7.
Right now, yeah, we turn it off obviously in the summertime, but right now it's basically running 24/7. I mean, it has a thermostat on it where it shuts on and off, but it is hot in there when you open the door. And we got it set at the lowest setting.
All right, so one of two things. One, we gotta fix this heater. Because obviously it's,
It's a new heater,
well, I'm saying it's running, you're at the lowest setting and it's
yeah,
running sick hot in there, which it doesn't need to be.
Right.
It doesn't need to be hot at all in there.
Right.
No one's in there, it just needs to be at a minimum heat. And just so I understand, the heater is so that things don't freeze,
Mm-hmm.
pipes don't freeze. So we're talking, it needs to be down in the mid-50s, low 60s. So that's gonna cost. So as far as energy efficiency, let's see what we can do about getting some money to either fix the heater or look at the cost savings of bringing back the gas.
well, I can try, I'll get a milk house heater and put it down there and plug it back in and see if that makes a difference and see if it,
Maybe this thing's got some
Right.
issues with the stack.
Right.
It could be something so simple. And we talked about, as far as the generator contracts, you're gonna look into those.
the only question that I had, if I can ask that now.
Sure.
We put in, 32,000 in the budget last year under the G81 30.2 for equipment to redo some of the chlorinators in the chlorine room.
Right.
Well, actually to redo both of them. I wanna transfer that to next year, but we didn't use that, and we're just not gonna have time to do it this year, because by
When you
May-
say next year, do you mean this budget or the following year's budget?
No, this coming budget.
Okay.
It's in my budget right now, but we're not gonna use it this year, because we have to start chlorinating again on May 15th, and we're not gonna have time, because the chlorine's gonna be down when we do that. We're not gonna have time to finish it, so I wanna put it in next year so I can carry that over.
Oh, so you just wanna carry that 32,962
Right.
from last year to this year?
That's what that asterisk was there for. Because when we're doing because there was other projects that we had done, and I don't like doing 2 or 3 projects all at one time, because then things start, so we were doing them one at a time, and there's actually the one with the recirculation pump, I talked to you about that we just got, it's not put in yet, and I don't wanna start the chlorine till that's put in, and I don't think it's gonna be in by the time we have to start chlorinating again, so I just wanna carry that over.
Under Pellwood Pump Station, obviously when you see the electric and you're saying that's even a bigger, is that a bigger area or just a
Pellwood?
bigger pump? 'Cause you said Webb Lane was the smallest, right? Of the
Yeah,
pump, of the generators?
Webland, or Pellwood, all we're doing is, that's just running 2 pumps.
Okay, so it's a lot less operation than Webb.
Yeah, Pellwood, yeah, because that's all outside, that's the one down by the ambulance hall, there's no heat or anything, that's just running those 2 pumps in the pit.
Okay. Now the generator and pump service, $2,000, what is that?
That's our, fee every year, their contract fee for those pumps. Or not for the pumps, I'm sorry, for the generators.
So that's paying off the generator?
No, that's our contract for maintenance.
Maintenance
and-
contract.
But then you have the preventive maintenance contract at $670.
Wait a minute, we're paid.
Bottom of, we're under Pellwood Pump Station. This is under contractual,
Contractual.
and it's B. Elwood Pump Station, you got fuel, electric, operation and maintenance, you have generator and pump service, and then you have generator preventive maintenance contract.
Okay.
There's two separate generators, right? There's
Not,
at White
one
Lane.
is ours, oh, well, yeah, there's two.
No, okay, I got generator and pump service.
Right.
That's actually, the $2,000, we put that in, that's for if we have to pull the pumps at Pellwood Lake. I put generator and pump service, because we use it both ways. If there's something that happens to the generators where it's not covered under the contract, because when you have that contract, it spells out what it's gonna do. But if it breaks down and we need parts or something like that, it's not covered under that contract where we gotta pay for that. And also, there's times when we have to get somebody to pull the pumps at Pellwood Lake, where we have to get them cleaned out and stuff like that.
Okay.
So that's what that's for.
Okay,
How old is that generator down there?
Pellwood is,
5 years old?
that's been since they did that project for Pellwood.
Yeah, I don't remember.
You may know, well,
I remember,
has it been that? So that's 27 years,
that generator down at
Pellwood.
at the ambulance hall?
Yeah.
That one in when they did the plant, didn't
Yeah.
it?
That one and the one at the sewer plant.
maybe I'm thinking the additional generator is 5 years. Did they put one alongside of that?
Oh, that's the ambulance corps,
Yeah, that's probably.
That's the
been there
town,
5
it's
years.
not 5 years, it's only like 2 years.
Yeah, that hasn't been that long.
That's what I was thinking, I'm sorry.
But that has nothing to do, we have
Well,
nothing to do.
that's
with
something that we need to look into though, because that was put there, and that to me is an extra expense we shouldn't have as the town. Because the generator, our generator, what I was told by the engineers was, our generator is way more than needed, not just to do our thing,
Yeah,
but to be that emergency, it's to give them emergency electric if they need it.
right.
And we went ahead and bought a new one for the town, for the ambulance corps, when our generator could more than handle the load.
Correct.
So I don't know if it's too late to do anything about that, but that's something we want to look into. And also, if it breaks down, maybe have, so there's no emergency costs. Not ours, because ours is much bigger than theirs, right?
Yes.
But if theirs breaks down, that we have some way to do emergency service to that ambulance corps from our generator now, and do it when we have money or when we get money from some kind of a grant?
We were hooked up to the ambulance corps.
Okay.
And but when they put their new generator in, they took it all out.
Yeah, they had the capacity to run the overhead door, and
Right.
one or two things, and that's it. They gave them, because they had to put the transfer switch or something inside, and I remember the deal was they give them the door and one other thing. Yeah, the generator that's there could have done, all you had to do was to work inside it and everything would have been fine, but instead they put another generator, that's the Generac, if I'm not
The
mistaken.
Generac, yeah.
A small unit, and it met all their needs, so.
And they took all the stuff that they had hooked into ours, it's all out.
Yeah, it's a duplication of effort.
What about the police? Do they run off of the
They're,
ambulance or?
well, they weren't there back then. I think the police came shortly after that other generator, or maybe that's,
No, the police were there.
Oh, yeah, no, they were there.
maybe that's why the other generator came. They probably wanted to have more stuff on the
No,
back.
their other generator blew. That's why they're replacing it.
Okay.
But the problem is that, again, with the mitigation that we're going on right now, we may get it, we may not. But that's a perfect scenario of having mitigation pay just to do the backup. Saying, just the wiring and whatnot that has to happen, so that in case the small generator goes down, our big generator can be, let them stay on the small generator if they want. That way, if our generator goes, they're not messed over. But if theirs goes down, we don't have to get someone in there at 2 o'clock and spend $1,000 for them to come fix an $800 generator. And we can get someone in there at a normal hour and a normal cost. But that's not you, John, that's us. But I just wanted to bring that up. Any other questions?
Even clear to me.
Oh, the other thing, the only major things that I put in for this year. The sludge recirculation pump, we're replacing one out of this budget that we have now. And then there's two of them, so I want to do the other one in the upcoming budget. The air conditioning system, it's on the roof. We've been told the last 3 or 4 years that the main thing on the roof has to be replaced. We've had people. Huh?
The condenser?
Yes, and we had, what is it? These guys down here, they came down and gave us a price, so that's based, just so I was ballpark at that.
Where are we at on that?
And the AC is for,
Basically, it's for the lab. We need to have it for the lab equipment.
okay, that's,
And you know what, if there was wind, because the lab, I think you've been in there, it's
Yes.
down, there's no windows to put like an AC in the window, or I would do that, but down there's no place to put it. So you gotta have, that's gotta be air conditioned, the lab.
and it's just for the lab?
Well, that whole building gets
Right.
it except for the basement, but we need to have it in the
Right.
lab.
Okay. And the AC is the 7,000?
Yes, those two things are basically the big ticket things, and then other than that, it's just transferring the money that I had for the chlorine thing in this year's budget to next year.
Is the AC working right now? It's got issues.
Well, we had these guys come down and they did all kinds of things to it right before the end of the summer, but like I said, we had Jones down there and these guys, and they both say that that's 27 years old too.
Right.
Who's these guys, DNK?
DNK, yes.
27 years old?
Yeah.
Get you the money.
They were surprised that it's still going.
Yeah. How big a unit is that as far as tons, you know?
It's not that big. It's on a little square right in the middle of the roof on top.
No, but I mean, it's tons of air conditioning.
Oh, I don't know.
Okay, because
Yeah,
how
I
many
don't
square foot is it cooling? It cools your office space?
Cools the first and second floor, not the basement. Doesn't go down there, so.
That sounds.
And the rest of the stuff is the same, right? Supplies.
Right.
Oh, man.
The chlorine, obviously, that went up.
Right.
What's polymer?
Polymer is stuff, we changed it, it's not 55-pound bags anymore, it's buckets. But polymer is what we put in, that's what we mix in it. It's like a string polymer, and when we're doing the belt press, that's what makes the sludge cake up, where it takes the water, it's dewatering is what it is. That's how we get rid of what comes into the plant.
Okay, thanks.
Fuel oil. On the contractual expense on the wastewater treatment facility.
Yep, 20,000, yeah.
Now, you know what, I'm thinking,
That
why
went
don't we
down,
gas, but
I
it's only
believe.
gas on web lane. That's why. Okay, no.
Fuel oil went down by 9,000. Last year we put in for 29,000, this year we're saving oil since we've done the work to the digester. We'd save a lot more if we got that gas furnace for the digester.
You did get a number on that, right? I mean,
It was all, at the time, and I think that was last year's budget, it was like 120,000.
right. How much do you think that was gonna save us if we ran that?
If I'm not mistaken, Ed did the numbers last year, and I think he said it was like a 5-year turnaround that we would save based on the fuel oil prices. That was last year.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's what we talked about.
Well, if it's 120 and we're spending 20, it's 5 to 6 years.
Yeah, we'd
basic.
be saving,
That's something that we've got to consider within this budget, depending on what goes on with the privatization. If that doesn't happen, then I think we should make a move to look for some kind of funding to get it, because if we get no funding, it's a 5-year turnaround, which means in 5 years, we're making money, just like the street lights. But we have to start. So obviously we can't do that this year, because we don't have the money. But that's something where right now, we're gonna need to find someone that's gonna help us, or possibly bond it out, knowing that we'll save $20,000, and in 6 years with the bond, maybe 7, it can be paid off, depending on.
and the other thing to think about with that digester furnace is, I mean, I gotta say, Pat Kelly's been a godsend with it because he keeps it going. I mean, we don't have issues with it, but that's 27 years old. That thing, I mean, you could go down there tomorrow, there could be a hole blown in the bottom, and then it's gonna be an emergency.
Would this heat everywhere down there, or just gonna
No,
be
this
one
is,
building? Yeah,
this
it's not gonna
is
heat.
just the digester.
Right.
Hit the,
Yeah.
But, I mean, again, there's so many options when you're dealing with the methane. You can run generators off of that, you can heat the buildings with, there's so many things
Yeah,
you
but
can
that
do.
number that you, the 120,000 number, that wasn't for heating any other building than other than the digester.
Just the well, that's the biggest
That's the biggest-
expense with the fuel
So
oil.
the methane can heat the building?
Heat the digester, yeah.
Can we do that now?
We're
No,
talking about
we
it.
don't have the ability to do it right now.
Okay.
If we got this methane, the furnace that we could get, it actually is fuel oil and methane where you could switch over. So if you had a problem with one, you switch, but you would mainly use it on methane where you wouldn't need fuel oil.
So how much is that?
120,000. That was last year's price. I don't know what it is this year.
Okay, we'll be talking about that, just because it's.
And there's other things, I mean, since they've done the digester work down there, that flame has been burning since they've turned it on. So we're making a lot of gas. There's other things that are available that you can use that gas for, run, generate, all kinds of stuff.
Well, it can also be hooked up the right way to recapture the electric. So if they're not using all the electric the gas is creating and the energy, we can actually sell that back.
There's a lot of options you can do with that methane if you really want to, you know.
There must be grants out there for that, right?
We have to go for them now too.
Methane's gotta be.
Chlorine is going up to 2,700 hours, you think? Is that what you said?
That's what, it's already at 25, and like I said, I only budgeted 21 last year, but we don't have control, because we do the budget now, and we don't go out to bid on that till June 1st, so we have no control over that.
The telephone, fax, Nextel telemetry, Nextel and telemetry, what do we got on that?
That jumped up.
That's our cell phones. The only one that's got one now is me and Joe Murphy. The alarm system down there, the fax machine,
The alarm system is the telemetry?
yes. That goes to the police department.
But that's almost double what it used to be.
That's we're Time Warner now. We had to get rid of Verizon because we never had a phone down there. So in the last couple of years, we switched everything to Time Warner. And it's more expensive.
Is it a better service?
Oh yeah, we don't have any problems with the phone. I mean, Gina knows how many times I've come up here to tell, we don't have a phone down there. I mean, Verizon was bad.
Outside lab fees. What are the outside lab fees?
That's Orange County Labs where we have to take our weekly samples.
They go up to the fees go up.
Yeah.
What are fees for Speedy's permit, program fees, $9,000?
That's the state's, that's all sewer permit to run the plant.
$9,000. Is that pretty consistent?
Yep.
Okay.
You need one.
Why?
Because you have a sewer emergency or whatever, you should have it. And then you have the weekend, whoever's on the weekend. Now, you know, technically, I think that's probably, I would say that's all right. You'd rather have the quick response. That's a small cost.
I don't know.
Well, there's more than just cell phones.
I know. The chlorine, that's the thing you said went up from 20 to 25?
The chlorine, yeah, the 1-ton cylinders, yes. Last year, we budgeted,
32?
no, well, last year we budgeted 28, but that was based on 28,000, that was based on 2,100, because it was up to last year, they were only $2,000 a cylinder, but then all of a sudden it jumped to 2,500.
Oh, okay, so it's 2,500 a cylinder.
Right,
Okay, gotcha.
You use gas or liquid?
gas.
Gas, right? Does it seem to work? The water department uses gas, so
Yeah, but they only use,
small or something.
they're 150s, yeah.
Where do you keep all your inventory, or pipe and fittings and all that? You got room down there?
So, no, down at the garage, we have,
Okay, I
yeah.
was gonna say, I don't remember seeing them down there.
No, they're down at the DPW garage.
Gary charge you a fee for storage?
Yeah.
I just use whatever pipe.
Whatever I need, yeah.
Now, on the sludge disposal fees, which I know that a couple of years ago, we changed over and then it shifted again with the way it was done. I thought it was a wash on that they were taking our stuff and, because they were using it.
No, we're actually saving a lot of money. What happened with that, we were taking it out to Lang.
Right,
And I don't remember what they were charging per ton, but we had the truck, a driver, and we were hauling it out there, and these people are actually coming and picking it up and charging us less a ton than, I don't remember what Lang was charging, but I think these are $125 a ton. So we were actually saving money doing it. The same with the grit and screen. We were driving them out.
right.
And I think the grit and screen, we were getting charged $350 a ton, plus we were driving it out. And that's basically 3 or 4 hours for one guy during the day. And now TAM actually comes and picks them up.
And you get wear and tear on the truck?
Yeah, exactly.
TAM does both, or TAM does the grit and screening?
No, TAM does there's a company, Spectraserve, out of New
Right.
Jersey. We sign a contract with them every year. And that's who does and they also supply the container.
Right.
We were supplying our own container, so this is a lot better deal than we were doing.
This, I think, is probably one of the better deals we're gonna get, but again, if you could just make those phone calls, not so much for the board, but for the community, and say, we're always checking, we're always making sure, but I think this is comparatively, it's phenomenal compared to what was happening years ago.
Nice job.
Thank you.
Equipment repair and replacement, anything in particular you're looking at on that?
Which one is, where is that?
That's for the contractual expense for the
Last
wastewater
page.
treatment facility?
Yeah, I think the web lane,
It's 15,000, well, no, that's just for the wastewater facility, not wet lane.
Well, basically, that's anything that goes wrong down there.
On everything.
Yeah, we don't use that we don't use it all the time, but if something breaks down, whatever,
That's
there.
a standard that you've had in there to make sure.
Yeah, I think, I got last year's,
Yeah.
is that what you used last year, the same number?
no, last year, actually, we had 20,000 in there.
Okay.
We lowered it to 15. Because basically, I mean, in the last 6 to 8 years, most of the major components at the sewer, the bigger components have been replaced. So,
Bought that number, I remember that now. You
Yeah.
told me that, yeah.
But you're still gonna go through
oh yeah, we go,
27 to 30 years, but it has to be replaced.
yeah. But I mean, as far as doing things breaking down, it's, you know, few and far between now. No.
13014.
I think this is laminate.
Yeah.
That's last year and before. Let's see if it's one down.
What do we have, how much money do we have in a contingency fund for the vehicle? Does anybody have a vehicle in a contingency
Yeah,
fund?
we had
This is
10.
last
We had 10.
10?
Last year.
10 years is what we figured for
It's
the,
not all top.
okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, this is just, yeah,
I was like, I'll take it.
this is all submittals.
Okay.
Maybe I should do, after we're done with John, maybe I'll talk through that so you guys all know what you're looking at, because.
I asked the same
You know,
Yeah, is that the?
I was like, I'll take this budget right now, because it's
That's a
$200,000 less.
contingency that
But
was
everything's
set
not
up
in there.
if
So
we
I was
had
like,
a sore
whoa.
break or something. Remember last time we had to get Tam in here and we had to, like, spend $80,000? That contingency is set up, that if we ever have that, you guys have funding. If it doesn't get spent, it goes to fund balance. You know, one thing I will say, the sewer department is your strongest fund. Okay?
Got it, there it is.
The sewer department has contingencies set up. If you had a major sewer break or anything like that, you have the funding to take care of it, okay? Fund balances for sewer are improving. I haven't received the financials yet, but my anticipation is the sewer department will have the strongest fund balance of all the funds for last year and going into this year. I think it's smart for the board to make sure you have a good contingency because of the age of the system.
On repairs?
On repairs, you know, okay, we had that Memorial Park
Yeah.
issue, okay? And,
Do we have, the only contingency fund we have currently is the vehicle, right, for the sewer?
well, that's reserve fund. You
Oh,
have
I'm
a
sorry.
contingency
Okay, I'm sorry.
fund, which is listed there as 100,000,
Okay.
okay? So you guys do have essentially a backstop if there was a problem. The one thing though that, and I know that Gary was working on this, if DPW or anything is assisting the sewer department, okay, when it comes to digging holes and stuff, that amount has to be captured and transferred back to the A fund.
And just so sewer and water understands, being homeowners, you have to really back that up and make sure it's done because it's killing our A fund. So you guys know, it's not just about keeping money in the sewer fund. If you get it back to the A fund, it's gonna help us all out, including you, which is good. Now, Gary, how much are you charging to store that stuff at the plant? Speaking of that, let's get a number on that and let's get that back for the last 10 years.
Yeah, that's a good point.
The day of the
I
tax
need A
cap,
fund,
you got
I need
your-
A
Yeah,
fund.
you got an activity-based cost.
Any other questions for John?
Did that issue come up?
Oh,
Very well.
Did we-
Bob, the furnace cleaning you were talking about before, did we talk about that?
Furnace cleaning.
It was like $4,000 or $5,000?
I discussed it with
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
we did. It was very involved. It's not just cleaning a small gas boiler, it's considerable.
He does the digester furnace.
Okay.
And that's a lot more in-depth than just, he does the regular furnace down there, but he also takes care of our digester
And
furnace.
this is
and that-
Pat Kelly's.
Yes.
Yeah.
and
Which is
that
the big
you-
one.
How many hours goes into that?
He's there most of the morning part, you know, it depends what goes on. I mean, like I said, the furnace in the control and maintenance building, that's like your house furnace. He's done with that in an hour. It's the digester furnace that's where the monies go. And when we have to get, he gets parts for that. He actually talks to me about that. Like a month before he does that service, he'll say, I'm gonna come down in January, and then he'll go out and he gets what we're gonna need for just the service part, and it's a lot more expensive than, and I've actually had C.D. Perry come down here. They will not work on that furnace.
Well, now you say it's Pat Kelly, I didn't know it was Pat Kelly. That, I know we're getting, because Pat bends over backwards.
Oh, yeah.
That makes,
And just so
And
the
he'll
board
be there.
knows.
he'll
I
be
know
there when
Bob,
something
he does
happens.
A lot of times.
He'll fix it for free if it was him,
Yeah.
Exactly.
and he'll do that.
And that's what I told Bobby.
I didn't
A lot
realize
of times when if one of the nozzles goes bad on that, he comes down there and doesn't charge the village.
And that's why I didn't get back to this, because I thought it was, I stopped
I
to
agree.
see Johnny,
Right.
and we talked about it, and I was quite content with the response Johnny gave me as far as the service Pat was giving us on that particular furnace, so.
Okay. Anything else?
Good.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, quickly before Gary comes up, let me just, John, we're good.
Oh,
You're good. I just want to quickly talk about the, what you have in front of you, okay? Just so you understand what you're looking at. Let's go, since we were just talking about sewer, let's just go to the sewer. Sewer is started by G. All right, so if you go to, it's toward the end of the binder. If you go, you're gonna look at the 4 headers. Right now, we're looking at requested budgets. Okay, as we get through through all the departments, we'll go to tentative budget. Okay, and when we get to tentative budget, this is listed as sewer fund revenues in the title. Okay, as we go to tentative budget, you'll see a 5th column, and that will list the amounts that you guys agreed to. Right now, what you see is the request on the part of the department. Okay,
When you guys affirm that you agree to those things, then I'll populate the tentative budget line, and then that will fill up that. We will prepare the tentative budget line, and then that will go to the village clerk, and then the village clerk will present that to you by the end of the month. After we've presented tentative budget, you have to have your public hearing. You can't make any changes. After the public hearing, you'll be able to make changes based on the public hearing / any changes that you need to do or that come up in that process. It's real important when you look, it says 2014-15 adjusted budget, actual revenues. Now, that is basically 2 years ago, okay? So right now, we are in 15-16. So that line is the adopted budget. So that matches what you have on your actual village budget, okay? So the third line over is the village budget. The second line over is the actual revenues and expenditures in the budget for 2014-15. That's the last budget where we had a complete year to present. The reason why that's presented is so you guys can compare between what you agreed to for this year versus what you agreed to and realized last year. So you can prepare for the numbers for next year. So it's looking 1 year forward, 1 year back, and 1 year that you're in right now. That's how this is designed, so you guys have the ability to make those comparisons. Now, the requested budget line, the fourth line over, will only be populated by the inputs, okay, of the department heads. Once we get to tentative budget, a lot of the lines will then be filled in. A lot of the lines I'll be filling in, a lot of the lines will be filled in as we have these meetings. You can't use the total. So if you go to the next page where you see expenditures, the total lines on each of these areas is right now not applicable because not everything's filled in. Like if you notice sanitation sewers, there's no figure in from salary. Okay, salary numbers are going to be derived over the next week or two, and then we'll start to populate those. Equipment, your O2s and your O4s are what your department heads are presenting to you, so that you guys have that information for at your disposal. You can, though, do a comparison between the requested budget and the actual line item of the previous year and the current year. So if we look at 8130.04, that's sewer treatment plant contractual. If you see, the request was $222,080. Last year, you passed an adopted budget of $228,880. The year before that, you passed a budget that was adjusted, so you adopted it. There might have been some budget transfers going on. At the end of the year, you had a $241,880 budget, and you actually spent $224,807. So when you look at that line item, the requested budget for this year falls in line pretty close to what previous years and last year's adopted budget, which is essentially the year you're in now, adopted budget. Okay, so everybody understand how to read that so that it helps you just gauge where the numbers are? So the water, the sewer, the DPW, the clerk, the police department, the dispatch, the track crossing guard, the traffic safety, all of those were inputted in the requested lines. When you guys hear them, you will let me know, are you okay with those lines? If you are, then I'll carry those over to the tentative budget. So for example, we met with John, the sewer department head, and I did not get any changes to his requested budget. So I will carry over all of his requests to the tentative lines. Okay? The tentative lines will show up probably late next week once we have most of our departments in the hopper.
On the sewer equipment,
Okay?
we're carrying over 32,000 that wasn't spent and was budgeted this year. How do we book that?
It goes to fund balance.
Okay.
I mean, he's not, he did mention that he was gonna do it this year
Yeah.
instead of, or next year instead of this year. Yeah, so that 32,000 won't be spent, you'll have a net surplus in that line item, and then that will carry over to the fund balance. As long as there's no negatives in the other lines, that would eat that up. Now, as I mentioned to you guys last meeting, there was no lines in the sewer department that were negative. So he is essentially running based on his budget. Yeah. Okay, the water department has one line that's negative, and that's salary for the water department. Okay, the A fund has 3 or 4 lines that are negative, and that's largely your police services. Okay,
I thought you did a nice job.
Are we gonna go through this now or later?
go through what?
Go through what he just presented.
Well, yeah, yeah, if you guys want to talk about each one, I just assumed you were good with all of those numbers.
No, I am, but I had a couple things I wanted to go through. Let's get Gary out of here.
Okay. All right, does everybody understands the report so that you guys can ask questions?
Gary, how much do you charge for storage?
That's all depends on the hole we have in there. We got a deal going on.
So Gary's back in the budget meetings. I'm not sure that was what he was expecting when he re-signed up.
Sorry.
But it's the rites of passage. Okay, so, Mr. Mayor?
Go ahead, Gary, walk us through.
We'll start right at the beginning in the central garage. I put $2,000 in for equipment for the garage. Kevin had budgeted $2,500 last year. Actually, because of what we did with the transfer, there's actually a balance of $1,377 right now. That's on point 2. Point 4 contractual. Because of the winter, we're in pretty good shape. He had a budget of $20,900. We still have a little over $12,000 there. I cut it down a few $100. It's $20,500, my request, and the reason that it stayed pretty much the same, I lowered the telephone internet expense after I looked at what we were paying, but Kevin forgot to budget for electricity last year.
Right.
And in there, so I was only able, when it was all said and done, I was only able to lower it about $400.
Now, internet, what are we using the internet for?
Telephone internet, the computer.
Okay.
I go on once in a while.
Gotcha.
All right. Is there any questions on that? Pretty much the same. Oh, the alarm system monitoring. I was able to lower that some after looking at the expense. Then we go over to street administration. Knock $250 off of that. And if you look at my worksheets, Kevin had a couple items as I go through the budget was lumped, like he had the schools and training materials lumped as one number, where I tried to break it up a little bit, the school and training materials and office supplies, so to give you a better idea of what the money's for. Then of course we get into the big numbers, which is A5110, the street maintenance. And I requested $75,000 to replace the one-ton dump truck, which is a 2000 Chevrolet. Actually, we got it in 2001. That's 15 years old. We had to take the dump body off it because it was collapsing. Actually, we rotted right in half. And we patched the floors in the cab. Anybody have any questions about the truck?
What did you get our miles on that? That's a big plow truck?
No, that's a small Chevy, 1 ton.
Oh, it's 1 ton, I'm sorry.
Four-wheel drive.
Okay.
For vehicle.
Right. Mileage?
I don't know what the mile is. Miles, really, Bob, to give you an example, miles, and you were talking to Johnny about the sewer department, the change in the sludge. I just happened to look today because we were looking at the roll-off truck that we haul the sludge up the Lang Industries with. So, the plow trucks, the two big plow trucks are 1996. They got roughly 40,000 miles on each one of them. The truck that we were using to haul the sludge, the roll-off truck's got over 80,000 on it. To give you an idea where there was a lot of extra expense in traveling on that. So the mileage on your plow trucks, they're 96, 20 years old. The mileage isn't so much as back and forth and wear and tear on the truck. And the same applies to us with these 1-ton dump trucks. It's not a mileage factor as much as the fact that it's in the salt all the time, the rust and underneath. I had actually, when I first came back and realized the dump body had to come off of that, I contemplated putting another body on it, even a flat, until I got underneath the truck and looked at the cab and the undercarriage. So, 15 years old.
What comes with a 1-ton four-wheel drive dump truck? I mean, is there any, the 75 grand, is that what for a dump body is?
Yeah, and a 1-ton truck with a diesel package and a hydraulic system for the spreader.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're gonna be close to that. We get into contractual, pretty much stayed the same, knocked a little bit off the gasoline because of what we're using. I talked to the chief of police, he and I use the same price per gallon, which right now that gives us a little cushion, but we don't know what's going to happen with the oil industry. We don't want to drop our budget number down to $1.80 or $2 and it goes up and then we're short. You know, of course, if we don't spend it, it just remains as fund balance. Get down the rest of the line, knocked a few $100s off for the small tools, wrenches and shovels, etc. We go into the second page.
What's rental equipment?
It could be a roller if I needed a bigger roller, almost anything along those lines. Different type of jackhammer, maybe almost anything you can think of run into some.
Big saw or something? Done.
Yeah. Tires, we put the tires on the big loader this year, so I dropped that line $8,000 from what Kevin had budgeted last year, knowing that needed tires. The next line down is the drug testing program, and I increased my budget request by $300 because I believe that everybody in Department of Public Works should be on the random drug and alcohol testing.
Okay.
And that $300 would cover everybody.
I agree.
Even including Joe Murphy, which drives the truck occasionally. That would have to be a decision if you want to save $50 a year, if he could not drive the vehicle.
We just have to refer to the contract.
I looked through the contract and I don't see anything in there that says we shouldn't be able to do that.
Okay. Yeah, certainly if there's nothing prohibiting it, it makes a lot of sense.
Truck tarps, I knocked down $500. We're in pretty good shape there. I did add $2,000 for leaf and sweeping disposal. And the reason I put that in there is, should we be forced to get rid of our street sweepings in another matter, we would need the money in there.
Okay, correct.
And the clothing allowance, common contract, I put $3,500 in. It was never on a line item in the budget before because, to be honest, I didn't know I was paying for it for years.
But how many people are covered under that?
Is that sewer and water too?
No, those are just, those are my men down there, and then,
What's included in that? I mean, they have that in their contract also, don't they?
no, that, their contract, their $500, their clothing allowance comes out of that budget.
Okay.
Comes out of the 5110, it was just never listed at all.
Okay, right.
Before, Gina was sneaking out of there and I didn't know it,
Okay.
a quarter.
All right.
All right, one of the men is in the garage, that's why there is clothing in that, and that the mechanic's $500 annual comes out of the garage.
All right.
So, thankfully, because of the winter and some of the things that we have saved on in fuel, I've got a a little over $60,000 to complete the year right now in streets, and I dropped my request by, well, roughly 3,000. Does anybody have any questions about the street part of it, street maintenance?
The 25,000 for chips, is that pretty much the same every year?
CHIPS fund, yeah, it's just some money in the budget for CHIPS. We actually get more than that every year, and CHIPS is a reimbursable fund. It gives us some money to start with.
And if we don't spend it, as long as they don't take it, or do we have to spend it?
As long as the state continues to do the capital highway improvement project fund, and it passes in the budget, we'll get the money.
You get the money, because it's based on road miles.
I believe right now we have, I'm gonna throw a number out, between $110,000 and $120,000 in CHIPS right now available to us. If the state budget goes through and they continue, that's fine. If the budget doesn't go through, we would lose that 110. It's not in the bank waiting for us.
Right.
All right. The budget goes through this year, hopefully. I'm keyed on doing some of the streets on the upper end, Jevons, Locust, Chestnut, Edward, and Hillside.
Okay.
They haven't been done in 30 years that I can attest to. A couple of them get real bad.
How are you gonna do Hillside?
I got one other contractor looking at it. The first two guys that looked at it said, maybe I'll see you another time.
Yeah. No, seriously,
I'm done. They don't, the guy that has county bid won't do any of those roads because they're too small.
Right.
The county bid price is based on them coming in and laying so many ton a day to make a profit.
And that's
So
not,
they
that's
won't,
not
they won't touch
applicable,
it. It just,
I'm just concerned about rolling, just spreading it and rolling it and just the application for something so steep and.
well, if we wind up doing them in-house, which could be a possibility, I've already talked to one guy with a tow truck. And what we have to do is rent a tow truck and winch the roller back up the hill.
Okay.
And let it coast down.
Okay.
Those are some of the
All right, so you got
little
plans.
bugs here and there that we're working out.
But no, I was just curious on how you would do that because I was thinking about that. And that's probably why they haven't been done in 30 years, just because the logistics of doing them.
Yeah. Well, it's not only logistics, but when they're on a hill like that, once they're done, you're not getting water laying there.
Yeah.
Think about it. Water lays, like down in your area, down Saturday Grove, that's what breaks up a lot of the pavement. There's no water laying on any of those roads up there. It's running. So it does help them to last longer, believe it or not.
All right.
All right, and then we'll go into snow removal, and minus the salt that I've got to pay for right now that we just got, I have about $20,000 left in that budget out of 52, which, thank God for the mild winter. I spent a lot of money this year on repairs.
Two
Due to
vehicles or?
vehicles, some notes here, let me just get to that. Some of the big expenses, we had to replace a plow blade for the one truck, which was $1,500. The shoes for the snow pusher was another $2,700. I'm just going through some large items for you.
Okay.
Parts to rebuild the wheels on both the large plows. We had to completely rebuild them. Hydraulic motor and some parts for the snow blower we just did. That was over $1,300. And sander on truck 30. We just invested another $1,600 in a motor and a control box for that. So there was some big items there, which hopefully we're going to be ahead next year. But luckily, it was a mild winter, but a lot of the money which would have been spent on salt got ate up doing repairs.
Okay.
Other than that, I held the same line on the. And then we go into sidewalks. There is only $9,700 left in sidewalks out of 17,000. But $10,000 was budgeted for replacement sidewalk, which we haven't done.
Right.
Where?
Where did it go?
No. Where was it to be replaced? As needed?
Just a
Or
budget
was there a
line,
section?
budget line at 10,000. What happened to the money, so you understand why there's only 9,700 left and you haven't done it, there was $5,000 spent on litter baskets.
How much?
5,000.
How many litter baskets were there?
I don't recall. I didn't do it. It was done before you.
What the hell's a litter basket?
Litter receptacles outside.
Stands on the street.
They're
Oh,
not
okay.
cheap. When you look at one of those Rubbermaid pails now, you're looking at over $250.
No, first thing I thought.
Well, it's interesting because I saw some document on my desk
Right.
about wanting new trash cans.
Yep.
So where'd the ones that we bought go?
Well, that letter is about taking some of the old fancy trash cans and cutting them down, turning them into planters. So that's
She spoke here
different.
before, a couple months ago.
Two totally different
Yeah,
things. You're looking at 20, from the numbers Gary just said, you're looking at 20 garbage cans. I believe they were replaced mainly along Main Street.
Yeah, they were replacement pails for the most part. All right, we go into parks. I knocked $500 off the request for equipment because we don't do that much grass cutting anymore like we did. So I know the tractors, we don't use. And there's still $740 left in that equipment in .2 at this time. And the other thing that I will be doing once we get out of the winter and I catch my breath is I'm going to come to the board and I want to surplus some of the equipment we have down there. We got 3 lawn tractors that are sitting down there we're not using at all. I don't think we're going to make a mint on them, but it also makes no sense just to leave them later. We go into contractual, and I was a little confused over what was in the budget last year on parks for beautification. Kevin had nothing, but then if you jump down to the bottom of the page under 7120.4 beautification, he had $5,400. And I don't know what you do with the garden club and vision now. So overall, between the parks and beautification, I still have $5,000 in the budget. I brought $3,000 back up into parks where I used to list it, and I dropped the beautification one down to 2. And I don't know what you do with vision and the garden club now. Do they receive money from the village?
I think they do. I thought we did.
I don't know.
I don't remember. Yeah, we do.
What's that?
Beautification for vision.
Yeah, there's beautification, but I don't know how much was going to vision.
No, well, basically Bobby Pollock is vision. Bobby, that was one of the main
I
reasons
think
we
there's
did it, but they didn't.
reimbursements, right? There was some reimbursements, I think, on some
Right,
stuff.
they actually didn't spend that much. It was more the labor, which, again, we could work into that, but we don't have to because it's all A-fund. So it's not like we're trying to find an area to go to. What we were looking to do is more of what they did in the fall. That was a big piece of what we did with beautification, the corn stalks, the hay, all that stuff up and down Main Street. That wasn't happening before, and Vision didn't budget for that. Vision budgets mainly for the winter, for all the stuff with the planters and everything like that. And I think we might have assisted them a little bit on that, but they did most of the winter. The fall was our big input to that, and I don't know that, I'm not sure how much of that budget they actually spent.
You have 7,500 left.
7,500
Yep.
out of 5,400?
No, it was
Even
ju-
better?
No, it was adjusted, it was adjusted up to 8,400.
Oh, so they spent about
But
1,000.
there must have been a donation or something that increased that to 8,400. And then 808, I'm thinking, I'm just wondering if some of that money was our walk as donation. There was 3,000 in donations, because the only way this would be 8,400 if it wasn't for a budget adjustment.
Well, I know that Eisenhower leadership donated at least 1,000.
More than that, though, there's a couple.
Right, well, they did
Keep it all the way down to
$1,000
garage.
donation at one point.
Pardon me, you keep a rollaway dumpster down the garage for junk? or-
No.
What's
So
the
needless to
3,500?
say, you have 7,500 this
Where
year.
are we?
Refuse and garbage,
That has nothing to do with that.
8160.
That letter we received today,
I don't know.
that's a vision project.
I don't
Right.
know what it is.
Oh,
I never did it before.
I would want to pursue that with, again, a combination of money, not just tax money. I'd like to see what we can get from outside somebody.
Well,
and match
Vision's
it.
already putting 1,000 in.
Right, well, not vision money, but I'm saying outside our community money and see if we can match it as far as what we're gonna do for that project. Rather than fund it completely, or fund our end of it completely. And again, as much as I wanna do everything, we have to remember that some of this money is more town than village. And, what we can start doing is requesting funds from the town for some of these things, and have people go to the town. And I'm not saying they have the money, I'm not saying it's wrong, but that's where we have to make sure that the line items are on the right line items. And if it's a town thing, and Vision was doing things down at Fort Montgomery, you know, with the corn stalks and everything, again, not to say nitpick or whatnot, did that come from village money?
No, not this year.
The corn stalks and whatnot, not,
No.
Okay.
It come from, it was two
No, 'cause
separate,
you
it
only
was two
spent-
separate bills.
You only spent
We
$800.
trucked it, but it was separate bills.
okay,
I'm cheap.
I know you are, that's why I dig you.
I-
Okay,
Well, I don't, whatever you decide to do with the beautification line, I don't really care. I'd still like to leave the 3,000 in the contractual for parks. It covers all of the parks, flags, et cetera, which, you know, I'm requesting 3,000, that's
right,
because of what happened the last few years and how it was broken up with it, I don't know. I mean,
Right.
you know,
no, that's fine. And with parks also is something that we need to consider, make sure that, the old recreation contract that we had, as far as, the town taking care of the pool, and what else is the town taking care of, we have no contract right now. Making sure that at least they're taking care of what they were taking care of before, and seeing what we can do about particularly utilizing the parks fees. Because that should be for all parks. And seeing what else we can do. That, Gary, for now, obviously the parks are on you, we need to have any upgrades that need to happen at the parks as far as upkeep. Like last year or the year before, we made sure we did the
Staining.
what?
The staining.
Right, the staining on the poles of the pavilion at Road Park needed to happen. There's basic upkeep that we have to make sure we have a schedule for, and that's gonna be budgeted in, not so much for us, but per se to go to the town, so the town help with the staining, under parks fees. So we need to just make sure, and the other thing I'd like to look at, again, it won't be necessarily our budget because we have the money, but we really need to look at upgrading Road Park, and particularly the pond area. That hasn't been looked at in a long time.
I do have a question. My request, I got 19.2, but the lighting for 4th of July, is that supposed to be village expense, or is that 4th of July committee, or?
It's 4th of July.
Because I know we paid for it this past year.
Did we reimburse them, right?
I wrote checks to the stuff that I got.
All right.
The only reason I know it came out of parks, and I don't know if it came back, that's fine,
I think there were checks for porta potties or something, and there's a couple, I'd have to look at the checkbook, but
All right,
there was
let's-
some stuff reimbursed.
Let's relook at that because that's something that, can we still reimburse that?
I guess you could, because it was this last 4th of July.
All right, that's not supposed to come out of parks. That should become out of public.
I would basically need to have a invoice from the village requesting reimbursement, and then I take it out of that. The other thing that the village needs to consider is what you want to do going forward as far as the Time Warner contributions. And again, I don't know what the latest is with who's 4th of July committee today. But if it's going to be turned over, my recommendation is the money that we get from Time Warner is controlled by the board, and the board could say, well, maybe we'll pay for the fireworks and everything else 4th of July committee takes care of, or something along those lines. I don't think the board's probably, it's in your best interest to pass all those $5,000 over to the committee without your oversight. Right now you have oversight. If you decide that some other group is going to run it or whatever without your oversight, then what I would do is take the Time Warner money and have that your decision to fund fireworks or whatever you want to do with that money. It's supposed to be for celebrations. I don't remember if the language said specifically for fireworks. I think it was related to celebrations, but neither here nor there, the board should be in control of those funds. And you can easily put those as receivables for celebrations, and then fund celebrations, and then determine how you want to dispense that. Okay?
What else, Gary?
A quick number of questions on the parks, we're good there.
Any questions on the parks?
I did want to, just quickly, Gary, I did want to mention something. The $75,000 truck, unless you plan on bonding it, is a little bit of a bridge too far. Unless the board wants to factor or put out an incentive, that's not completely controllable by Public Works, but if we don't have any major snow removal costs, and our fiscal year ends the end of May, you potentially will have a surplus of $60,000. There's also a
Will it be that high, given the fact that Gary said that he used other funds to repair equipment?
Unless there's any transfers. Are there any transfers that are going to come out of any of the snow removal lines here?
No, you're figuring in salaries also?
I'm figuring salary, yeah.
He's figuring salaries. That's
Salaries
all that money is.
and supplies.
No,
Right now, you're left with $60,000. And I think that that's a fair consideration, that if we do not have any major snowstorms between now and the end, and we're not having to cut into that, if you can back fund that with that $60,000, then the replacement of the truck becomes a lot more achievable because you won't have to borrow money.
Don't we have 10,000 in reserve?
That's a vehicle reserve, which was mainly designed for the vehicles that they use to get to different places. I'd have to look at the specific language to see if it could be used for a heavy equipment item. Might.
It's a vehicle.
Well, it's a 1 ton, you know.
Care.
Or what you can do, here's another thing you can do, and that is you can elect not to fund the vehicle reserve this year, because I haven't funded it yet. It's on the budget, but it has not been actually sent to New York class. You could make a board resolution to take that $10,000 and apply it toward the 1 ton, and then there's not even any question. That would be a board action, kind of like what we did with the fire truck last year. That's why I don't transfer it at the beginning. I wait, because when things happen during the year, it gives you some flexibility to maybe, for good reason, make a adjustment to that money. So the truck is definitely, and that was a good idea on Charlie's part as far as that additional $10,000. The truck is definitely doable if there is no real expenses. And you could also get some help if the contractual for street maintenance, the 5010 line,
Now, the 5110 line, there's about 60,000 in there that Gary had alluded to.
Yeah.
If there's the ability for Public Works to kind of really meter that money, you might be able to draw from that. And then I think it would be probably a reasonable consideration on the part of the board to fund it based on the savings that were achieved from somewhat of an act of God, but you take what you get. Take it when you can. That's right. So just food for thought. Doesn't, you don't have to decide it now, but I think as we get closer to the tentative budget, which will be, maybe we decide after the tentative budget, fund it now, go into the tentative budget, and what I would do is I would essentially allow the budget to be backfilled with, or you will allow, I won't allow anything, you'll allow the budget to be backfilled with maybe 75 to 100,000 in fund balance for the specific purposes of funding this expense. Okay, so just a thought.
Thinking about.
Gary, the facility and equipment repair at the park, 42, what are we looking at on that?
What we should be
Basics.
looking at this year, in this current budget, is the bathhouse and some panels up there in repairs. And I don't know without talking to Kevin, but I got a good idea, it's probably what he put money in there for. The bathhouse definitely needs help. It also covers whatever else we can run up there, almost anything you want to look at.
Right. No, I only...
Hand dryer.
Right. Well, no, you mentioned the bathhouse, and that's really part of the pool, which is really part of the town. So, again, I'm not putting it on the town, but we have to try and get what we can. And it doesn't affect the tax cap. Any of this is new building. And the electric, that's not coming from the lights. Isn't that included in all the other lights?
Well, you have a
Or is
pump.
that separate?
That electric probably is also for the swimming pool, I'm guessing.
And a pond pump, right?
Bomb pump, the pavilion, which, the lights are on in there all the time, electric hand dryers.
All right. Not to get crazy on that, but if we could figure out kind of more adjustment, particularly again, if we can isolate everything at the pool, then we can at least bring some to the town and say,
Well, the pool's metered.
pool's metered itself?
Yes.
So again, that should be, if we're as a village gonna take on certain expenses at the park, which technically I personally don't believe we should be, then they've been taking on the expense of the school, at the pool, then we should look at the bathhouse and the electric to see if they are willing to take on the expense because of the pool. We'll be taking on the majority of the rest of the expense.
Where's that bathhouse fed out? Is that fed out of the pool panel?
Has a separate meter.
Separate meter on the bathhouse?
Yes.
Well, there's two separate meters, if you have the ability to shuffle those accounts over.
Well, I mean, nobody, and really, nobody uses that bathhouse.
Yeah.
It's just that simple. People are afraid to go in there. If we're gonna put a dime in that bathhouse, we really need to look at doing some major renovations. And one thing, I don't know how major it will be, when I go to the Orange County facilities, their whole top of their wall is aired. That's one of the biggest problems. There's no real light coming in besides what we turn on, and there's no air. Because when it was built, it's just regular block.
No, it was built with air panels and vents on the side. They got blocked off because
Oh, okay.
the raccoons destroy them at night. The two-legged raccoons.
Destroy the cinder block?
The panels that were there for ventilation, they would always bust them and knock them out.
The cinder block ones?
They weren't cinder block, they were ventilation panels on the side.
Oh,
Go
okay.
and look at the wall top, there was ventilation there. There was
Okay.
vents there, and they kept destroying them and knocking them out.
So the ones at the
Actually-
parks actually are cinder block, but they have the crisscross across the whole top.
Yeah, no, this wasn't the whole top row, but there was vents there, and they had to block them
Well,
over.
that's something we have to look at, because it's a useless building because very, very few people even utilize it because it's dank, dark, not a great place to be. So if we're gonna put any money into it, we need to look at really doing it and not just trying to, you know, give some maintenance to it. And the other thing being, again, is looking to see what we can do with the town as far as cost.
All right, where are we at, equipment?
Next page.
On the storm sewers, A8140. I knocked some money off of the pipe and fittings, and knocked a little bit off the cement block and brick. $1,500 off of the request. Bobby asked me about the refuse and garbage. It was in there, 8160. I don't know exactly what it's in there for. I never did it before when I was here before.
Was that spent? I was waiting for you to actually look.
I don't know.
Maybe his refuse and garbage was he was thinking that's where you put like the sticks and whatnot?
Yeah.
That couldn't go with the leaves?
Yard waste?
Yard waste?
I don't know what it was in there for. I didn't have it on my,
But yeah, you threw 3,500 back in there, didn't you?
well, it was
Nice
in there
move.
before. It's not like I never did it. I'm still under the 1% cap.
It's a beautiful thing.
Remember, the exact same numbers, you'll stay under the 1% cap. We're not talking about vehicles yet.
Oh, okay.
Now we are.
Yeah.
Street cleaning equipment, sweeper, 250,000.
Where's the treasurer?
Now, is that
That's when he
with
left.
radio or no?
Pardon?
With a radio?
No,
With the
we
radio
use the
or
same radio over.
Okay.
Not a problem. The sweeper, and I know you probably, well, I don't know how they come back. I don't know how you feel about it. It's well past its life expectancy for a street sweeper.
We're talking about the
We're
street
up to the
sweeper.
big ticket item.
Yeah.
That's what Papa was down in the middle of the street.
Probably an option to buy 2 or 3 years, maybe more, I doubt it, would be to put a new engine in the sweeper in it, but that's the big problem with it. I called the Johnson people about it, and that's where I got a budget number, you know, for the sweepers at $250 now. The sweeper's 18 years old. It's well past its life expectancy. And I said to him, what about using our cabin chassis again? It's got a Cummins diesel in it. I said, you know, and I was under the hope that we could save maybe half. He said, by the time we ship it to the factory, pay for prep and everything else, we're probably at best looking at a $50,000 to $60,000 savings.
And we'll still, it's an older,
No, the cabin chassis is older, yeah. Cabin chassis would still be 18 years old when we got it back, or 19. An option to buy it sometime for a couple of years is to replace the engine in the sweeper. That's the real weak link right now.
how much is that?
Well, I'm gonna tell you that it needs a couple other pieces under the sweeper. I'm gonna tell you somewhere between 30 and 40 for the engine, the labor, and the other parts that it needs. The thing right now, the engine's so bad in it that we got a coffee container hanging under the blow-off tube with foam rubber in it to soak up oil that we empty periodically, and that's not getting all the oil in it. If it wasn't a sweeper cleaning the mess up going down the road, you'd have oil all over the place.
It's passing oil, throwing oil?
Yeah.
Well, it needs rings, or is it?
That engine's been a problem since that thing was almost new. We had it rebuilt once, the piston in it went in it once, that's why I don't recommend putting any more money in that engine.
Now, something to keep in mind, since we're doing these inter-fund transfers, the vacuum component of this vehicle is used by both sewer and water? Or
Yeah, well, yeah, we don't do that many
We
actual
split
sewer
that
repair
up.
jobs. We do use it for the water repairs quite frequently. So one of the reasons we
You
bought
have
it
to
with the vacuum.
Quantify, you have to quantify how much it is. Well, Gary, what about leasing a piece of equipment like this?
I don't honestly know what the cost is gonna be for us getting almost twice the life expectancy out of the sweeper. I don't know that it's a real gain to us. I can look into some numbers, I try and get some numbers on one, you know, I can do that.
Lease or like a United Rentals agreement or something. Because the only real option for something this big is to bond it. Now, it is a piece of capital equipment, you know, it's a heavy duty equipment, but
Something Kevin had talked about 2 years ago when there was an issue, there's always been issues with sheeters for years. But when he was talking new, which we may be able to get away with utilizing sewer and water, is that some of these sweepers now, it would be more money. But some of these sweepers are equipped with exactly what we bring down TAM for, with a side thing that sucks up the...
Well, that's what we were just talking
Oh,
about.
okay, all right.
But those are
Ours
very
does have the
expensive.
vacuum.
Ours has that,
Well, how can we bring them down then?
because the sweepers don't do what the TAM truck does. The TAM truck has this high pressure water on it and a much more powerful vacuum. That thing will pick up rocks like this.
4,700 PSI.
It's
You don't want to have your hand there.
It's the same thing, but to a much greater extent. It's a much bigger, more efficient machine.
But we do use it for sewer and
We do,
water.
we use it for a lot of water leaks over the years. It's one of the reasons we bought that sweeper with the boom on the top, the vacuum. We've used it for a lot of water leaks.
Well, that to me is if we have to do it, is we have to dip into the water and sewer. That's what you're saying?
Yeah,
Okay.
you
I wasn't sure.
Yeah, no, but
Tried
but
to-
the other, you know, look, the other consideration you guys have is a consolidation consideration.
Exactly what I was...
So if you really want to look at something like this, you probably, Gary, you probably want to investigate either a lease or rental scenario.
Alright.
Because let's say this thing is let's say it's 250,000. A 5-year lease on something like this will probably run maybe 40,000 a year.
So that would be approximately the same as
About 50
rebuilding
rebuilding.
engine.
But the difference is you don't have to take the risk of a rebuild. Because rebuilds, you know, again, Gary probably could speak more to this, but rebuilds normally don't just cost the cost of the crate engine. There's a lot of other things that go into it. So, and you could be, you know, you do run the risk of putting good money after bad because it's an old machine. 18-year-old machine is very, very difficult. But again, I'm giving you the financial side. Obviously, Gary's experience is going to be able to give you the practicality of whether or not to do it.
You know, I'll look, I'll call up this week, I'll get some prices on the lease and rental.
How often is it used, Gary?
This time of year, very seldom. We have in the past used it in the winter time for doing water leaks. The thing is so bad now, we're having so much trouble getting it started, we're having so many problems with it cutting out that the last couple water lines we did, last, I think 3 now, we did the old-fashioned way with the hoe and the pick and shovel by hand. We haven't even attempted to take the thing out and use it.
Now, the town was also using it, correct?
Up until, I don't think he used it last year. When I say last year, I mean 2014. I don't think Pat, because he was afraid to use it for a fact that is when that it would die then, and we'd be looking at them to buy them over. I know in 2015 he wouldn't use it. He rented a machine for a couple days or a week.
Yeah.
But I also, I know the machine that he rented that was available to him, they had a lot of problems with because it was on its last leg to come out of an outfit out of Florida. But that's, you know, that's not the same as a long-term rental or lease either.
Yeah.
I'll look into that, I'll get numbers. I'll get numbers for you this week. All right?
Any other questions? Good? Thank you, Gary.
So order the truck you said tomorrow?
Order the truck, but not the radio, you gotta take it out of the old truck.
Okay. I do have a couple of questions. A couple of different things, if you don't mind. This storm sewers, Ed,
It's $475.
the storm sewer, I need that money transferred from point two, 8140.2 to the .4.
Okay, hang on, 8140.2
8140.2.
equipment,
Yeah.
you got 12,505.
Yeah, well, that was a mistake, a typo. That should be under .4.
Oh, that should have been a contractual. You know, when I was putting this together, I was wondering why that was like that.
So can we get that transferred?
All right, so you
on
want to
paper?
transfer .2 to .4.
Right.
Okay, board just has to resolve that.
You can do that right now?
You can, I don't have I could fill a sheet out. You know what, let me grab a sheet and I'll fill it out, and then you guys can weigh in on that so it can be done tomorrow.
What's your other question?
My other question,
It's not for me, right?
yes.
Oh, it is.
Well, sort of. I guess it is for you. The code, Havens Road project, it's drainage down there from the FEMA funds. I need a code and available funds for that if I'm gonna start, because I'm gonna wind up buying material and renting a piece of equipment at some point.
Okay. So that, how imminent is that project? Because I gotta do some research on it.
Well, it's getting real close.
So you need the code and you need,
I may start, if the weather's like this next week, I may be starting preliminaries down there, clearing out some of the debris.
Good.
okay. All right, I'll be in next week, during the day. I'll spend some time looking that up.
Okay, one thing we didn't talk about was the contractual mowing. I left the same number in the budget, which I think should be enough.
One thing I do recommend on the mowing is maybe that in the contract we have that during times of drought, that it's on call, not automatic. Because, you know, I'll tell you, not that I want to take money out of these businesses' pockets, but they're mowing and there's nothing to cut, and you're getting charged for the mow. So I think that maybe a smart thing to do in the actual agreement negotiation is to make a contingent that during times of drought, we will notify you that we would like a contact prior to mowing. You could save yourself a couple $1,000. You know, I think it was $15,000 we set aside for that, or 13. Mowing was 15. You know, in a drought period, you might shave off $3,000 to $5,000.
Now, Gary, I know that when we were doing it, you preferred to do Memorial, but now that we're subbing it out, do you feel comfortable seeing if the town will cover their end or no?
I think you're opening a can of worms, honestly, I know we're looking at every dollar, but for the fight involved, and the reason we wound up doing it, the reason the village, I say we wound up doing it before I was here, when Joe Murphy was in charge, was the town at the time was doing it when they got here. And it wasn't kept up the way that the mayor at the time, Inga Queens, wanted Main Street and the entrance to the village to look. It's not gonna save or make or break your budget. It's here. Let's just go on till we see where you're going with consolidation for your till, you know, are we gonna do half of the park, or are we gonna do half, and we're gonna quibble over this. I personally, it's the park at the entrance to your Main Street that we're doing all kinds of things all the time to try to beautify the artwork, you know, the plaques and everything else, and now we're gonna quibble over who's gonna cut the grass or not cut it. I just,
Okay.
personally, I just
That's why I asked.
leave it well enough alone and let's take care of our park. I don't care who owns, the deed might say it's not all ours, but let's take care of our park. The clock we put in it, the monuments there, you know. Suppose they tell us to take all our stuff and move it. then we got problems. And Bobby, wanna move that clock? I just,
That clock's on the town property?
Well, it depends on where the lines are.
it's a little vague, yeah.
Good to go.
Well,
Anything else?
yeah, you're trying to rush me now. Just so you know, and this is something you people have to decide what you wanna do, the senior center, Gina and I talked, and I agreed to take care of it. We're going up there every Friday morning now, which doesn't bother me much this time of year, and we're, you know, cleaning the bathrooms, etc., whatever it needs, sweeping and mopping the floors. And I can do that to the end of this fiscal year, even though once we get into the construction season, it's gonna be a little more on me. Just so long as the seniors please realize, you know, something might happen, I might miss a Friday morning. All right, but I did agree, I talked to Gina, I agreed to take care of it at least for the time being, and you decide what you wanna do. I'm not looking for the extra project long-term. Once, you know, the weather breaks and then we got the pavilion and everything else Friday mornings plus cleaning the streets. I don't need to have two guys up there for an hour or two every Friday either, all right?
Gary, just to make sure then, so the equipment for storm sewers isn't required, but we need it in contractual.
Right, that whole fund should be under contractual.
Okay, so for the board, you're gonna, transfer $12,500 from your storm sewers equipment line, 8140.02 to 8140.04 storm sewers contractual. I verified as of today that 12,505 is in there. The 12,500 would be the transfer.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Who's second?
Brian.
I feel bad.
Jane, I'll give this to you for Anna. Okay.
Okay, all set?
Thanks,
Thank you.
Gary.
Okay, Gary, if you do get the lease, or rental information, if you could just give a copy to everybody and it'll be discussed at a future board meeting.
I will do that.
Okay, thanks. What do you guys want to do about the water department? Do you want to just press on or reschedule?
Excuse me, Anthony, I didn't want you taking my seat, but I have my jacket.
Maybe. This one?
That's the one you're sitting on. There you go.
I'm okay.
I don't mind sharing the
Thanks,
chair,
Mom.
but take my coat.
I think if there's any questions.
Do you want to reschedule for Wednesday? You've got,
What do we have on for Wednesday?
Wednesday, you've got,
Good night, everybody.
good night, good night.
Gary
Wednesday, you've got the planning,
and Bill.
and village administration. I don't have
Planning
anything yet
staff.
from planning.
Yeah.
I
Clerk's
understand
gonna be
that's on
rough.
the way. Huh? What? Clerk's gonna be rough?
Drop 1%. Salary.
So we could throw water onto Wednesday, just in case planning doesn't come in.
Right.
Um,
The one thing I'd like to see on all the departments is, they're not in the business of telephone, fax, copier, the whole nine. Not that I want to centralize it, but I think that we need to have more of a single contract or we have much more better bargaining when we're saying we have 5 copiers, and same thing with our telephone or fax. We need to kind of just centralize that with billing and everything else. It really, though it has to be under their budget, I know the guy was going down to talk to the sewer about a contract for the copier. And I'm like, that's not their thing. So I really want to bring all of that back to the village as far as just having the contracts and being able to make the deals with these people so that we get a better buy. The only other thing I had with the sewer is $7,000 on the AC. though they don't have any windows, they have several drains in the lab. They can utilize, and they're very inexpensive now, even really serious ones, an indoor AC unit that drains into the sink. And instead of,
Like what you have over there.
no, it's actually a mobile.
That's a ductless split.
Yeah, actually, it's a small
Oh,
mobile
yeah,
unit
yeah,
like
yeah.
this. The lab is this big. It's cut off that thing, it's really this
I was
big.
thinking of that too, one of the stand-up ones that.
Yeah, the ones you can roll around and move wherever.
Right.
So that's the sole purpose of this $7,000?
Well, it does the whole building,
Yeah, it
but
does.
he says they only need it in the lab, and I'm not trying to, but I think if we utilize more of an indoor, mobile unit, that would definitely keep the lab at the right temperature. They can open the windows in the other places, you know, and half the time they're not even there, they're putting chemicals in, they're doing this, they're not in the building.
They could do fans.
Yeah, and a fan is gonna be a lot cheaper. I would almost like not run this till there was additional money to even look at redoing the AC. You know, obviously they need the AC for the lab, but yes, you don't have a window there, but that's why we actually have one down in the basement that has no windows. But you have one down in the basement and you just run the thing that puts out the heat out the door, and then you put the other thing into a drain. It's very easy, and it chills the downstairs big. I just want to look into that before we spend $10,000 on an AC unit that we really only need for a room this big.
Well, I think it was the office space, the top.
Oh, it does the whole building,
Yeah, it's a
but
condenser.
we don't need the whole building being done. That's the thing.
But where would the exhaust hose go?
There's three exits to the room. It will go in one of the exits. I'm not saying that's what we're gonna do and then we're gonna kill $7,000.
Let's look
We
at it.
have to look at it. $7,000 for an AC unit to do one room,
I'll check it out.
yeah, is not, to me, is not worth the, and again, now that's that. We put the new condenser in, what else needs to be ductwork, this, that. Is this really working? We don't even know, we gotta power it up. And the other thing is we definitely have to deal with that, the electric heater.
Yeah.
And now, these aren't budget issues as far as changing a number, but there's 3 or 4 things we have to follow up with Johnny on to make sure that these are done. And the other thing is I definitely want to look at, definitely if there's any kind of matching funds, is moving forward on the gas.
Furnace.
Furnace.
For the,
For Web Lane.
Right, no,
Burn the methane down.
for the
Oh,
For the
down
plant.
there, yeah.
Again, depending on what's going on with the privatization project, that will be taken care of in that, so we don't have to do it. But I think now if we prep, start looking, seeing what's available,
He says the methane can heat that damn thing up.
Yeah.
yeah.
Right.
Well, that's the thing, is we could be saving at least $20,000, and if there's more there besides the heat, it can be converted to electric.
Right.
And it can do even more, and then we can sell it back. Or we can use the electric, it's not just the heat, $20,000 a year we're saving, but now we can save electric as well, depending on what the output is. We really need to get someone down there who knows, checking the output to give us a real number. But remember now, that's coming out of sewer, which we have money in. So the sooner we do it, the sooner we're gonna save, just like the streetlights. And then in 5 years, depending on the output that we're really dealing with, we're actually, it's not that we're making money, but we're not spending that 20,000 every year now. So that's a consideration we really need to look at. Any other comments just for tonight on the 2 or 3, the 2 departments we looked at?
They were prepared. All right.
Yeah, I would agree, we're certainly making progress with that. I have some individual items I want to just put out for consideration. We don't need answers today, but just things I want you to kind of think about. The first thing is our consultants and where we're at with our consultants. I'll give you a couple of figures. Attorneys right now, we have about $2,000 left in the budget for the rest of the year. We're at about $48,000. Engineer, we have about $25,000 left. We budgeted 35,000 if I recall. Raise, if you're considering a raise, my recommendation is based on what's going on with inflation and everything, 1% or 0.5% or 1.5%. I wouldn't recommend more than that. I wouldn't recommend 0.
For what?
For all your administrative non-union. Everybody that's non-union. And elected officials and so on. The celebrations line, the beautification line, take a look at that, see what you want to do with that, okay? It's real important.
Like the doublet?
You know, there's something to be said for, you know, the Village of Highland Falls signs being properly decorated. It does, you know, sometimes a couple $1,000s goes a long way for, you know, the goodwill. I want to point out that your revenue for court and so on is above plan.
How much?
Right now, just bear with me. Right now we are at just over 30,000 with about 3.5 months to go. 30,000 was your budget. Last year you did 36,625. 36,625 to that. IT expenses, I think it was a good idea to have IT, and that we're going to, I was talking with Gina, there's a consideration of making sure that the water and sewer departments are paying a share of IT, just like the insurance allocation and so on. Also, water bills, sewer bills, the cost of those bills, postage, all that stuff is going to be charged to those departments. We do get, there's an administrative charge to each of those departments for the work of collecting and distributing, but those are considerations. Your contingency for this year is at $78,000 remaining. That's good. You did, you know, 22,000. We're pushed to various things. Insurance was higher. Police department, PFRS retirement was higher. So you have a couple things there. So that funding situation is better. Certainly, again, my biggest concern is the cost of your overtime for your police and dispatch services. That's definitely stretched well past the budget.
Now, you were saying that if nothing changed in the 04s and whatnot, they might be able to meet it. We're still getting overtime between now and April. Should we consider another freeze? Just so that we come in around budget? Well, we did a year and a half ago.
I thought we had.
Well, you have an
decided
04,
to
you have
do-
an 04 freeze, but not your
Overtime.
overtime. Police
That's my
police
question.
overtime and dispatch overtime.
Well, dispatch you can't. There's got to be one. There's only one.
Well, no,
What
but
do you do
you can stress to the department head and the lead dispatcher that the part-timers that are on there need to be, there needs to be a call log and there needs to be encouragement that the part-timers are picking up those shifts.
You know, we paid for uniforms and everything else.
Yeah.
They should be
Well, what's
filling
his
those
name?
shifts.
Chico's kid. He refuses to come in. He's not coming in to be a dispatcher.
Anything specifically on personnel, we're talking executive session.
Yeah.
what I'm saying is, you can ask them to doing the part-time people, and what she told me today, they're not coming in.
Well, then they need to be taken off and new ones are brought on.
But that's something to think about in exec,
Okay.
is that we need to consider that. Again, because of unfortunate budget constraints. What else?
Debt service, we're going out for bond auction tomorrow. I'm cautiously optimistic that we'll get some good rates. And we'll do the closing next week. I really do think you should strongly consider a lease or a rental of a sweeper. Buying it, I don't think makes a lot of sense. If you really were thinking of buying it, we should have included that in the bond offering we're doing tomorrow.
I'm definitely not considering buying a new one.
Yeah.
The two things to consider are rental, fix, three things. Rental, fix, and nothing. Now, the fact that he said that they utilize it for some of the things is great.
Water.
But I really want to know, I almost want to say, don't use the sweeper for a month. Because it has, we don't even know when it was broken. It's been broken in the summer for months at a time.
What?
And no one, the sweeper. And no one said, holy cow, why do the streets look so horrible? You know, the only thing is the weeds, and that's what we have to deal with. And that would be something the sweeper would handle if they would go down the edges of the sidewalks and not the middle of the road all the time.
Well, then, tell the people Wednesday, you park on this side, Thursday, you park on that side.
Well, I almost would like to just see what we're looking at in the beginning of the spring, see what the roads look like and see how horrible they are. Prepare for one or the other. So we're not, this isn't a last minute thing and it costs us twice as much. Prepare for one or the other, but really, you know, not that we're going to get rid of it and get rid of it forever, but again, looking at a budget, I agree. I personally would not like to lease or rent, but I agree with Ed. We throw $40,000 or $50,000 in. Three more things are, you know, he's already brought it up. Three more things may break. As with any car, when you fix something,
It's 18 years old.
well, yeah. So that's the consideration, but. I would like to back it more, but every time I see the machine used, they're in the middle of the road. And that's not the purpose of it. So that's just my recommendation. It's a board decision. You guys weigh in, please.
Well, Gary's gonna come back with some numbers
Right.
for leasing anyway, so
Yeah.
maybe at that point we'll
And
have
we
this
don't know
conversation.
if there will be more salt on the road before
Correct.
the end of the year.
Well, with that, if the numbers come in for the rest of this year through April, I definitely want, the way it was brought up as far as the use of the thing, definitely want to pursue the truck.
Yeah.
We need it. That would be one of the last things we do pursue before consolidation, because that hopefully is what the consolidation money will be used for, is to bring the fleet up to speed for the entire community, for the entire town. And this way, we're not going to be, the village isn't going to be responsible for another 4 or 5 vehicles over the next year and a half. So that's the other thing we have to discuss with Gary is, are you okay for the next year and a half with majority of the rest of your vehicles if you get the 1-ton truck?
But he's gonna have to be. Call it what it is. You don't have the money.
Okay.
I'm just saying, you don't have the money. How can you get the equipment?
Just scaring
I
me.
did ask Gary if after the storms they're washing these trucks down, and he said they are.
That was a
Said
big
it wasn't
consideration I was
going on
thinking too,
earlier,
right.
But it is now back in play. Version A that you have, I'm not going to update it until next Monday, okay? So what you have work off of, and then I will need, I'll need on Wednesday affirmations on DPW and sewer, that you guys are happy with those numbers, and then they're going to go into the tentative budget. I'm going to, hopefully, if I have enough information, I'll put the 5th column tentative budget in there. If it's not in version B, it'll be in version C, so we can start to see the totals and so on. I do need in the next 2 meetings, now again, Wednesday's meeting is you know, we don't have any competition. Next Monday's meeting, it's 29th in February, so there's no competition there. So the first time we're gonna have a competition issue is the board meeting day, which is the 7th, where we're scheduled for a budget meeting, but there's also a board meeting that day. So,
The board meeting can be quick, right? We can just say over.
I think that's your formal meeting. I think that's the town, right, in the town hall?
Yeah.
Your first one, okay?
So you're gonna have a budget and that?
Yeah, after your board meeting, we'll have a budget meeting. Now,
Welcome to budget season.
you'll be up by 10.
30.
Okay.
March 7th, we'll have finished all the departments. So we're now at review and discussion for that week. So let's say Monday becomes very difficult, we could always meet on Wednesday and the next Monday, and then I'll prepare the tentative for submission to the village clerk. So we have plenty of time. Again, I just think that what's really important is that you guys determine, you know, contractually what we're gonna be doing too. One of the things, after we're done, we need probably a brief executive session to discuss the DPW contract.
Yeah, and I've got 2 dates set up, April 13th, no, I'm sorry, March 30th and April 13th for the police.
Okay, all right. All right, so, any questions for me? You guys have enough information, you know, Mayor, you good?
Oh, yeah.
I thought it was pretty interesting my first time around here.
You would.
So say it now before, because when you get cut, you might not be able to talk.
It's all on tape. I just want to make sure you
Motion to
have
go into
that.
exec.
Want to make sure you have it on tape.
I'll second it, Scott, please.
I want to know. We're in exec. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Okay, so